unless you're injured, you do not significantly slow down in terms of athletic performance until you're in your mid-70s.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
This episode of Spartan Up is presented by Trifecta. Unbox your best self with the food, coaching, and community support you need to reach your goals. Trifecta delivers delicious, micro-balanced meals directly to your door, no matter your diet. Clean, keto, paleo, vegan, or vegetarian, Trifecta is your nutrition partner for your best self.
Joe Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and the Spartan Up podcast. We make you do hard things. We rip you off the couch, you know that. I've always got amazing guests, but this guest is gonna blow your mind. Dr. Vonda, gotten to know her over the last year here in Lake Nona, Florida. She's board certified orthopedic.
That's right.
But she's also like a superstar doctor that you can call at 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, I need my blood tested immediately. What can you do? And she comes to the office and takes care of things. So welcome.
I'm so glad to be with you.
What's your story? Because you seem to know a little bit about grit and resilience.
I do. You know what? Well, first I want to say that people always ask me, why the heck did you move to Orlando? And I like to point out I didn't move to Orlando. I moved to Lake Nona. And to have a tribe like you is why I moved here. So good that I met you early. So you know what? It is hard to get to be an orthopedic surgeon. But Joe, do you know what my first job in medicine was? When I was 22 years old, right out of college, there was a shortage of nurses. And I was a smart kid, so there was an opportunity to go into nursing school and get another bachelor's and a master's in 3 years. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go that path. And in 3 years, I got a master's degree in cancer nursing. And so learning about grit and determination and what's important in life. And so if you come to my house, you wouldn't care, but some people would care about my curtains or the mismatch, and I don't give a rat's ass. And it's because at a really young age, as a cancer nurse, pushing chemo in the middle of the night, where people were doing the hardest imaginable things, surviving when toxins are going into them, I learned the true value of what it meant to give it all to a cause, which was waking up the next morning, right? So I did that for about 6 years, and then at 28, I decided, you know, I've learned what I'm learning from this experience, and I'm gonna go back to medical school. Only then, not realizing that I would choose a very long pathway. You know, I went in at 28. I didn't get out until I was almost 40 because it takes that long. Medical school, 6 years of residency, and then a fellowship, and then finally you get out. But along that time, you learn what you can do, right? You learn how many 3 a.m. nights when you're the only person up in the hospital and you're still responsible for everything you can do. You learn how to eat the cold pizza that's been sitting there 3 days, because if not, you might not eat some more. Because when I was training, it was before the 80-hour work week, which if you say 80 hours right now, people are like, what are you talking about? The work week is 40. But I will tell you for sure that there are 168 hours, and I've worked 136 of 1 week, right, in the neuro ICU. And so those life lessons that you take at a young age, from being up all the time, taking care of people who are extremely vulnerable, pushing yourself and eating cold pizza to survive, means that at my age now, Joe, as hard as it gets, I still know that everything is fixable. I am confident that I am going to be able to worm my way out of whatever. And you know, you're going to laugh at this thing that I did in my second year of residency. I kind of did what you're pushing people to do at an ultimate level. I said, what is the hardest physical thing that I need to do to prove to myself that I will last through 12 hours of surgery, being up all night? And at that time, the hardest thing I could think of was to run a marathon. And so I trained and I ran this Chicago marathon. But you know what? At 3 a.m. in the morning, I remembered that, okay, no one rescued me. I made it through the tunnel and I finished this race, and I can see the morning light.
That's an awesome story. It really resonates with me, your time with cancer patients. My mom back in the 70s, her mom got cancer.
Yeah.
And lots of our family members had cancer. And my mom died at a young age from that disease. And I think that's why I understand how to squeeze the juice out of life every day.
Yeah.
And there's a slide, when I'm giving a speech, there's a slide I talk about, which is if you could envision an X and a Y axis, and it's like how much tolerance for pain do you have versus what your expectations are. And I think in this world we have tremendous expectations around the color of the shades on the windows and all these ridiculous things that mean nothing. Right? Tremendous. The Wi-Fi doesn't work on the plane. The coffee wasn't hot enough. We flip out over ridiculous things. And we have no tolerance for pain. And probably what you learned and what I learned being around that awful disease is you got to have a tremendous tolerance for pain, and you got to have very low expectations. You got to be happy that we woke up this morning.
You know what, it taught me that happiness does not come from things or the external circumstances. You know, I had these women in the middle of the night who literally, chemo is given in the middle of the night. In the 80s when I was a cancer nurse, in the middle of the night. So it was me and them, and they are laying there and trying to make the best out of their world, shopping on the television, you know, trying to control the little modicum that they can control. So I think that's a big part of resilience and grit and hardiness, is not being afraid of, in uncontrollable situations, to have agency and control in that moment what you possibly can.
Yeah, control some little things.
The little things.
Yeah, right.
Clicking a TV, getting up, right?
It's probably why I'm driving my wife crazy over the cucumber salad I want every night.
I know.
Because during the day, my life is so out of whack and so uncontrolled. There's like 3 or 4 things. My kids have to take their vitamins.
Yeah.
I gotta have my cucumber salad. Everybody's got to be in bed by 9:30. Because I'm like a crazy person.
You're everywhere.
But that's probably why, right? I'm probably seeking a few things that I can control.
The routine. I mean, there are books and lots of research that shows that routine leads to excellence. The same pathways, doing this it the same way. Certainly in surgery, we strive in the OR, I strive in the OR to have the same steps every time, unless there's a reason not to, because in that you can really have a deep focus and I don't know, a peak performance moment, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, anybody that's just listening and not watching, you can't see Dr. Vonda, but she looks like she's 35. And so she knows more than replacing knees and arms and cancer. You're doing something to operate at as a peak performer. So what do you do?
Yeah, what is my routine, you're asking?
Yeah.
So you know what, I want to preface what I'm about to say to you is that baseline, I love sugar so much that I'd rather eat cookies for breakfast. But I do not touch simple sugar anymore. When I was 47, I don't even know why I decided to do it then, but I decided right after Thanksgiving that I was going cold turkey on all simple carbs and added sugar. So it doesn't mean that I don't eat the quinoa and the really fibrous, I'm like, you know, you gotta digest for hours to get through this fiber. But sugar is killing us in this country, and it was killing me. Because in 47, I was perimenopausal. My main symptom was aching body. I was hobbling out of bed. So I completely eliminated it. And I think that's made a huge difference in my life in terms of my overall inflammation. Certainly if you're commenting on, I mean, yes, I think you're right. I look younger than my stated age, which tomorrow will be 56. I'm having a birthday. But I think sugar, letting go of that. Now, why do we want sugar in the first place? Well, okay, it causes our brains to release dopamine. It's a pleasure in our lives. But I contend to people, you can get pleasure from a lot of things and it doesn't have to kill you, right? Sure. So eliminating sugar is one big thing. Since moving to Lake Nona, I'd always been a runner. I'd always loved, well, first I was a dancer and I couldn't dance anymore, and then I'm a runner. And then I loved high intensity interval training because I loved the adrenaline for that. But now, since I've moved to Lake Nona, I'm doing what pro athletes do, and I'm base training a lot more. So I go low heart rate. I do that 3 hours a week. Twice a week, I then sprint my guts out. And in doing base training, it's helping my metabolism, right? My mitochondria are getting happy. I'm causing my satellite cells, which are muscle stem cells, to be able to replicate, right? Instead of withering away in my muscles at the 56 chronologic years they've lived, right? So, so that's what I do aerobically. And so in base training that you then build your capacity, I can still get my heart rate up to 186 and keep it there for a period of time. But
so guys, what Dr. Vonda is talking about, I happen to see on, I don't know, there was some study done where they were looking at the best athletes in the world across all disciplines.
Yes.
And they were shocked. I'm going to screw up the numbers. You'll edit it, but it was like 80% of their training
is zone 2 base training.
Zone 2 base training. You can speak. You're not right.
Yeah.
You're not completely out of breath. You're not
That's
dying.
right.
And a very small percentage, 20% of their workouts were more HIIT.
That's right.
Right.
But what I see people doing everywhere is what I used to do, which is HIIT every day. And so what that does, especially if you're over 20, is you have no recovery time and you tend to overwork. I mean, high intensity interval training is a stressor for our bodies, right? And so we need to give, for peak performance, we need to give our bodies time to recover so that we can peak again, right? So what I see, we are in the Lake Nona Performance Club, and lots of people love our intense training here, but 6 days a week, what it does for them is it hurts them. And then what happens? You have to take time off, which is, I don't know about your people, but it pisses me off when I can't do what I want to do. And then you get weaker, which is counterproductive, right? So that's why I started really zone 2 training, because when I am hitting all the time, if you want, because of my kinetic chain problems, which have developed over the years, I get left Achilles tendonitis, which gives me right hip flexor pain, and I gotta stop. And who wants to do that? So that's what I do from the movement standpoint. And I've just been doing this, what I'm about to describe to you, for 3 months. If I take off my jacket, you'll see I'm wearing a continuous glucose monitor. And I am totally geeked out by my data, knowing when I first put this on, I was shocked and alarmed, despite how clean I eat, that my baseline glucose was about 97, which is too close to pre-diabetic for my taste. So I started fiddling with my food, how I eat my food. We're talking about your cucumber salad. That is fiber, that is vinegar, that is onions, which is really fibrous. When we start with that kind of thing, this is research done in 2015 and redone in 2020, we line the bottom of our stomach so that we can put the protein on fat on top and then put the carbs on top, and we get a very slow release of glucose, not these spikes that leave us brain dead, it leaves us craving more sugar, right? So that's the first thing I did. Once I don't, on most days, spike anymore, then I wanted to lower the whole curve from in the 90s to in the 70s. The base training really helps that. Now, intermittent fasting is not for everyone. It is not for athletes in training per se, but for me, it's okay. I control my digestive times, and so now I've lowered my baseline glucose. I'm probably running, if we check it now, between 70 and 80, very well tightly controlled. Decreases my inflammation, makes me younger, it keeps my brain clear. I do not wake up in the middle of the night because I have a very protein-heavy diet. So that is a very long way to answer what you asked me, like how do I take care of my own health? And for the people who come to me, I have an orthopedic side of my life and I have a private client side of my life. That's what we do. We just connect the dots first to help people live in optimum health so they feel amazing most days. And then the next step is peak performance. How do we squeeze the performance out of the towel of life? And then the third phase is addressing longevity. How do we do that for an individual?
So correct anything I'm about to say, but we're obviously completely aligned on everything you said. So number one, we've got to move every day.
Every day.
We got to move. And movement doesn't have to be you're out of breath, you want to puke. 80% of the time, you can go at a pace that's comfortable. And not only did I see that study, not only am I hearing it from Super Doctor over here, Spartan Doctor, You guys don't know, but we anointed Dr. Vonda, the Spartan. She's the official Spartan doctor. But I got tested myself. I was here at the Performance Center, and
your lactate threshold was tested.
Yeah, well, they tested me. Somebody from Tour de France came in, and they were drawing blood as I was exercising. They were like, "Wow, you're really metabolizing lactic acid very well.
Yeah.
How do you train?" And I said, "Well, I go long and slow. I'm not."
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that? Oh, 30 years. And he goes, "How did you know?" I go, "Because I don't like
Just
to
the
go
way-
fast." Right. So,
Yeah.
so clearly there's something to that.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in cold showers. They suck. I've been doing them since like the 80s. I'm sure there's lots of health benefits there. Somebody said something great around food. You're going to love this, which is like there's 3 levers to pull with food, right? One is quality, one is quantity, and then one is hours of operation.
Oh,
So,
right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and you could screw up, I think they said you could screw up 1 per day. So like, if the quality's not great, make sure you don't eat a lot of it, and make sure you eat a limited
Time period.
If you screw up your time period, make sure it's really high quality and there's not much, right? So like, I kind of like that. And then obviously, don't drink. Why would you drink? Are you a believer in that? Like, why would you drink?
You know what? I never enjoyed alcohol at all. I grew up in a household without any, and I'm Asian, and so I don't really metabolize it. I get all red and awkward looking.
Yeah.
But when was it? I don't know, last summer or something, I just stopped. And then Huberman comes out with all this data, and I'm like, guilted. I'm like, oh my God, not only killing my brain, but my breasts.
Right.
So I'm not about to increase that risk factor.
I saw the brain data. I didn't see the breast data.
So the number 1 or 2 most lifestyle risk of breast cancer is drinking alcohol. And it's such a cultural thing. I mean, it's a cultural thing around here. I've said it twice in the last week. People are going to be upset with me.
Yeah.
But it's so associated with being social, but I just can't take that risk. I don't need to have more than a 1 in 7 chance of getting breast cancer.
Right.
I don't like it that much.
Right. What's the real? Right. That's what I don't understand. I mean, when everybody's young and they're going out and partying and they're trying to get rid of that, take that edge off.
Yeah.
But I think most people have got sucked into this idea. Oh, a glass or 2 of wine a day is healthy for you. It's good for you. It's not.
Well, and it's hard to define. Is it 5 ounces of wine? Is it 1.5 ounces of hard liquor? Well,
Right.
I don't know if it still kills my brain cells. And as an academic, my brain's the best part of me.
Yeah.
Why would I risk it, right? Because, I don't know, what do you want when you're really old, when you're 97? Would you rather have a great brain or a perfect body?
Both.
Well, I know you'd want both.
You've got to be mentally sound.
Yeah.
You've got to be mentally
Or
sound.
it doesn't matter how physically sound you are,
Right.
right? It's hard.
So I'm with you. So no alcohol. Get rid of all the boxed, packaged food.
Right.
Get rid of the
Nature does not create fluorescent foods, does it?
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm in a Starbucks because I'm in a jam and I'm looking for something.
Yeah.
There is nothing you can get from Starbucks that doesn't have like 5 pounds of sugar. It's so disgusting. I don't like. It's just right. Like
Right.
I'm like, let me get a matcha. It's all sugar. Everything's sugar.
You've got goals, and we can help you reach them. Trifecta is an immersive weight loss program built on science-backed principles that actually work. Step 1, answer a few lifestyle questions. Then set your goal weight, and we'll give you a personalized plan on how to reach it. Step 2, the Trifecta app is like a virtual coach in your pocket. Look out for daily education and nutrition tips as you begin gaining momentum on your journey. Step 3, let Trifecta be your personal chef and dietitian too. Eliminate the guesswork and kitchen burnout with pre-portioned macro-balanced meals delivered to your door. They're crafted using organic ingredients with different meals arriving each week. Simply unwrap, heat up, then eat. Step 4, you can change your plan anytime, or pause or skip weeks. Hitting a roadblock on your journey? We have a plan for that too. We'll arm you with ways to break through plateaus and get right back on track. All that's left to do is crush your goals. Get started today.
I tried my best one day. I was coming home from surgery. Well, I was doing surgery downtown. I had to do clinic out here. It's about a 30-minute drive. I'm behind. I'm frantic. I have no gas. Right? Oh my God, I'm going to run out on number 4. So I stop at a 7-Eleven. I also, for whatever reason, didn't eat enough that morning, and I can feel my blood sugar. So I'm in a 7-Eleven. I'm like, okay, I'm going to search all over this place for the I laugh saying it, healthiest possible food I can get. So I got a cheese stick, I got some jerky, and I got a green banana. Oh my God, Joe, I did the best I could with packages, and my sugar spiked to 164, and I never spike that high. 120 is about what I do. So
It was all sugar.
when you try your best, beef jerky has all this sugar in it. I don't know what was in that cheese stick, but if it has a package on it, but you know what? People think eating clean has to be really expensive. Actually, I like to eat great northern beans, right? The Blue Zones, Dan Buettner says a cup a day is going to make me live to 114. So, but you can buy a little bag of it for $1 if you get it on Amazon. So I think there are ways. You can buy frozen vegetables, which are much cheaper than generic frozen vegetables, frozen right on the field. So much cheaper, right? So I reject the notion that you can't eat more healthily with less money. But I do before you get hate mail, I do want to recognize that everywhere in this country, there are food deserts where the only place to buy food is a bodega. Now those people are in dire straits. You know?
I have a solution. If you were president and I was vice president, I don't know if you'd buy into this or not, but the solution would be let's tax the junk.
I've heard you say this.
Yeah, and let's use the money to take care of those food deserts.
I think it's a good idea.
Right?
Why should it be so inexpensive to buy fluorescent food in a box?
Yeah, and for all the people that hate me when I say it because they're like, oh, we need freedom, that's freedom.
Well, you do have freedom, but what happens on the other end, Joe?
Right.
When at 62, when their health span expires, there's no freedom in illness, is there?
No, I'm with you, and I'm saying the freedom exists. You just got to pay more for the giant Slurpee. Just pay more for it because it's costing the entire country more.
Yeah.
Right. So all right, we covered food, we covered work ethic, grit, resilience. We're talking about regenerative medicine. We're talking about stem cells. You had a stint that you understand that.
I do.
Well, what's the deal there? Because there's a lot of confusion.
There is tons of confusion, and I think some would say cynically, and I have said this, that the getting to market with stem cells prior to the science is all money based, and I think there is that. They cost a lot of money, and anybody can hang a shingle. It does not take any modicum of education. However, I had a stem cell lab at the University of Pittsburgh with a couple other researchers who are just all amazing superstars. And here's what I know, is that our body is amazing and we can harness it to heal ourselves. So we currently do this in my clinic using platelets. I pull off 60 cc's of whole blood. We spin off 5 billion platelets. You have to be specific if you're going to get PRP. Dose matters. So we spin off 5 billion platelets, and my clinical results here match what the research says, is that many people get amazing pain relief from arthritis. PRP has great research to back up its use in tendons.
That's our own blood.
It's our own blood,
Yep.
spun in a centrifuge.
Yep.
Blood will separate by weight, and we just pull off the layer that contains the platelets. Platelets in your body, if you get cut, your blood rushes to the scene. The platelets stick to the walls like clogging up the dam, but they don't just sit there. They then burst open and release all the growth factors your body needs to heal. We're just harnessing that technology that we've had since humans were made. So that's PRP. Stem cells, when I want the consumer to ask the question, where are the stem cells coming from? How many are you going to give me? Here's why, because we know that we can get stem cells from fat cells. From fat, we can get stem cells from our bone marrow. We can get them from muscle. That's those stem cells that we studied in our lab. But dose matters, how they're primed matters. And I do not say this to scare people. I say what I'm about to say, know what you're getting and who's giving it to you. Because in my lab, stem cells gone wrong is cancer, right? Not only in my lab, period. Stem cells out of control is cancer. So that's why
You're saying the source matters, and right now
Source matters, number matters.
Anybody could hang a shingle.
Anybody can do
so
it.
it's not organized enough.
It's right, and the FDA is really trying to get a hold of it. Not that I want them shutting down what could potentially be a really great thing, but people just know who's giving you treatment and what they're giving you. So in our clinic and in many reputable clinics, we use bone marrow derived. So we harvest it from the bone in your pelvis. We do not take them to a lab and grow them. We purify them right on site and inject them. I also use adipose tissue matrix. It contains the scaffold that the stem cells need. It contains the fat stem cells, and it contains growth factors. Now, the very word stem cell means that the cell itself can do a lot of things. If I take fat stem cells and I put a different kind of growth factor on it, bone growth factor, it will start to become bone. It will go down a bone pathway. So it takes that environmental influence. And so do I think the body is capable of being harvested to heal people? Yes, I do. Do I think that in my lifetime we will get it right? Yes, I do. We've made huge. Do I think there's still reason to know who's treating you and what you're getting? Yes, I do.
So you're the author of 5 books. Why'd you write 5? How the hell did you have time to write 5 books? You were training for the marathon. You're a nurse.
I had a baby when I was 40, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Joe? High capacity people just get shit done, right? You do, I do. Yeah. You sit around, right. So you get stuff done. But the reason I started writing books for the public was because my life's work, academic work, has been in dispelling the myth that aging is an inevitable decline from vitality of 20 down some slippery slope during which we spend 20 years dying. And sometimes people think there's nothing we can do about it. And that's just giving up, right? So my entire life's work was first to prove in a population of people that we could affect our health and aging long into the foreseeable future. So it's not like this, our life. It's like this, like Queen Elizabeth. This. On Tuesday, she met the Prime Minister. On Thursday, she went to sleep.
So the term I've heard, which was so elegantly phrased to me, is health span versus lifespan.
That's right. I want our health span, which is currently 62. The definition of health span is the time before chronic disease rears its ugly head. Life expectancy is currently 81 on average.
So that differential, that delta is
20 years.
You're living in and out of a hospital.
That's
it's not optimal. It's a mess.
And right, who wants to feel unamazing every day?
Right.
So the beginning of my life's work was to prove by studying active people that we could maintain. So the series of studies we did showed that unless you're injured, you do not significantly slow down in terms of athletic performance until you're in your mid-70s. So if we stop before that, either we're hurt, we're done with it, or something unforeseeable, right? So don't give up, right? Number 2, we found that we can retain our lean muscle mass. We did an MRI study that we took slices of a 40-year-old a group of 40-year-olds, their quads, gorgeous. I'm just going to tell you their muscle looked like the most amazing structural. And then we had a control group who sat around for 35 years. And if we call the 40-year-old triathlete a flank steak, you call this sitting around person a rump roast that you'd never even feed your family.
Wow.
And then, but you look then at a 75-year-old triathlete, not pro athletes, people like you and me with day jobs. Well, you're special, but me with day jobs.
Yeah.
That we just move every day, and the 75-year-old's quads, his muscles look just like the 40-year-olds.
Wow.
So we can maintain our lean muscle mass and not get weak. We did one of the first studies looking at retention of brain function with exercise, and you retain executive function by moving your body. And there's actually this simple action, skeletal muscle contraction of any kind, biceps, causes the transcription of the longevity protein clothos, which then works on every organ system. So, I'm so excited about the role of mobility in our current health and our longevity. But if I only told you sitting here and the 100 people or so I see in my office, that is a very small number of people's lives to change. So I started writing for the public. I started going on TV and radio and writing, because every time I'm on TV on a big show, it's 5.5 million people are forced to hear the story that I'm telling you today, that we can be healthy, vital, active, joyful, and then die suddenly so that you have a full life instead of dying slowly over 20 years and feeling like crap.
Wilting away.
Wilting away.
Well, the biggest fight I have with people is trying to get people to go to bed early, and I'm like, we know we have to wake up early. Like, that's a given. You can't change that. People have to go to work, you have stuff to do, right? You got kids to school. So that's like set in stone. So the only, and then, so that's number one. Number two, we know that you got to get a proper amount of sleep. And then so your only choice that you could move is when you go to bed. Like, we should set alarm clocks at night, not in the morning.
That's an interesting concept.
Right?
But you know what people don't realize about sleep, and I'm certainly not a sleep expert, but I've listened to a lot of great people talk about it. People think you're just passed out. You're so not passed out. It's the most metabolically active time in your whole day. Right. And you may not be aware of it, or you may get a sleep aid. You know, that's another problem with alcohol or any kind of sleep aids, is that you may think you're knocked out, but you don't get rejuvenated.
So my sleep aid is omega-3s, and my understanding is, talking to folks like you, that's incredibly important. The omega-3s we seem to fall short on.
Yeah, we do.
Folks.
And that fat is amazing for our brains.
All right, so what does it take? Like, you're a nurse, you've been around cancer, stem cells, you're an orthopedic, you run marathons, you're a mom, entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur, you're running this program. What's this One Red Arrow program I've heard about?
You know what, about 10 years ago, I decided to really dive deep into the innovation community. I found that my ideas were always a little ahead of the wave, right? So my aging research was, no one wanted to talk about being 40 when I started it. Right. So I thought, something about my brain thinks of things a titch early. So I thought, I gotta go get with other people. So I started going to innovation conferences. And what I found, and some amazing ones, it's like I'm so passionate about it when I'm there. But what I found is that there are a lot of ideators in this country. And you know, sometimes some of the conferences were around the biomedical space. Great ideas, right? I'm like, that is amazing. But an idea goes nowhere. I mean, it's execution that's everything. So I saw so many companies or so many great engineers come up with an idea and never ask a clinician. They never ask anybody on the front lines helping people whether this would even be helpful or whether it would work, and what steps I needed to take, from drawing it on a napkin to getting a prototype to getting it at the bedside, and who is the key person to champion it in a clinical setting, because that's what it takes. No administrator can turn the heads of the people on the front lines. Identifying that, I paired with a woman named Lynn Banaszak, who worked for CMU at the time, controlled a $26 million innovation fund. Now she's with Amazon. But she and I formed this consulting pod, if you will, to help innovators think through the pathway to execution, including who they needed to know. Did you think about this? Get your clinicians involved early. You know, sometimes it's a hard critique and sometimes it's a slam dunk for them, but we call it One Red Arrow because it's easier to get where you're going if you're following one red arrow.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And my philosophy is, number one, fire ready aim, because we could sit around forever and plan and organize and but never do. And then without a doubt, you have to know where you want to go in order to go. Like, if you go in the car and you don't put where you're going, in the old days we would read maps, but today we got to type it in. How are you ever going to get there? I think people listening and people watching are thinking, oh my God, it's too easy for her, everything comes easy. What challenges are you facing? Like here, you opened a new clinic.
Yeah.
Easy?
Oh, no, starting a business is never easy. Well, what I learned late in life that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And had I to do it all over again, which I would. I mean, people ask, you know, if you could go back, would you do it all differently? No, I wouldn't change anything, because I like where I am now. So I actually would live through all the suffering I've ever lived through to still be in this place. But what I would change, because it wouldn't really change the outcomes now, is I would collaborate more earlier. I would find like-minded people who, and I would view people not as a zero-sum game. When I was young, if I'm being honest with you, I think I had to protect it. You know, surgery is really competitive. Like, I got to protect my little knowledge. And my ego wouldn't let me be wrong, right? My daughter, my 15-year-old told me that. We can get into that another time, right? Oh, changed my life when she said that to me. But because of those things, I didn't collaborate enough. And I think successful people find like-minded people. So now that's why I moved to Lake Nona, because I wanted to be, I'm not really kidding, surrounded by a tribe of innovative people who were enough like me, high enough capacity like me. Frankly, Joe, that I didn't have to explain myself. I'm tired of explaining myself. So that was a challenge in starting businesses. Number two, I was listening to something you were talking about. I think it was a summary of how you got started. And for a long time, my businesses, and to some extent, some of them are expensive hobbies. Like I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, I'm using up my daughter's college scholars fund right now. But you know what? There's something about the work I'm doing that is worth doing that drives me. I mean, you must feel that way. Because you were saying how there was a period of years where people are like, what's Crazy Joe doing? And what's Vonda doing? Putting her daughter's college into, but that's what bootstrapping is. That is what the heart of a true entrepreneur is. And I have owned that now. So when I was at the University of Pittsburgh, I called myself an intrapreneur, building big businesses for other people. And Atlanta, I was an intrapreneur. And now, both in my orthopedic side and my other side that we've talked about, true entrepreneur, I either do it or my family doesn't eat, right?
You burn the boats.
That's it. There's no going back, but this is the way I wanted it.
By the way, if you're listening or watching, if you don't burn the boats, if there's a safety net, you probably tap out because there's a way out. When we put on the death race each year, I'm intrigued that the kids make it further than the adults. And I'm like, oh, well, the kids don't have a way out.
They don't know.
Yeah, the adults know they can get in their car and leave. The kids have no choice. They gotta finish this thing.
Yeah.
So it hurts to put yourself in a situation where there's no way out, but it's a simple way to get it done.
Right. And you know, it's fueled by the fact that I know the work I'm doing is meaningful.
No doubt about it. If we don't have purpose and we don't have why, when the going gets tough, and the going always gets tough.
Always.
Anything worthwhile, right?
Nothing's been easy.
You need that why. For me, in my tough journey here the last few years, when we're changing lives. If I was selling handbags or cigarettes, I would have tapped out.
Done.
You know, no, there's no purpose. So what do you think it takes to ultimately get people off the couch? Like your mission, my mission, to get people healthy. Is it going to take a government mandate? How are we going to get people off the couch?
I think the way I phrase it, because I've been taking care of people since the 80s, both as a nurse and now a surgeon. And I've tried every method, Joe. I've tried data. I've tried shaking my crooked finger at them and saying, you're gonna die. I've tough love. Fundamentally, we can make people do things for a while and mandate for a while. But I have found it has to do with people believing they are worth the daily investment in their health. If you do not know that you're worth anything, why do you care, right? It's just another day, I'm not worth anything. So a lot of motivation has to know that I am worth slugging up a hill, dragging a chain. I am worth daily investment of zone tuning or so I know that's not the easy and it's not the policy answer, but in taking care of people a long time, I cannot motivate people for the duration without believing that they are worth it.
Somebody just said to me recently, they said, Joe, if you just bought a $10 million racehorse, how would you feed it? How would you make it exercise every day? Like, what would you do? You're worth more than a $10 million racehorse. How do you not take care of yourself?
Yeah.
And when you put it that way, it makes you question, like, what are we doing?
Well, and I think people, and it goes back to this question, I think we started this conversation about happiness. We were talking about happiness, and people try to put their happiness in a lot of meaningless things. The curtains, right?
Yeah.
I could give because of these cancer patients I took care of. we put the burden of happiness on a lot of meaningful things. So what's interesting as it plays out into health care is insurance isn't paying for anything these days. It's very difficult for, you think you're getting a good plan and then they reject the thing I order. And so I call upon people to save their money for the health they need, whether it's paying for their own DEXA scan, which I just did, or any variety of things. And I say it to my patients. I say, you need to save your money to invest in your health, not in your accessories, right? And moving costs nothing, right? And it's not even that hard, right?
Yeah. No, right. I mean, just go for a walk.
But I think people are comfortable until they're not comfortable, right? So people are living in their modicum of, I'm living in my modicum of comfort, right? I'm not throwing the finger at other people. I'm living in pretty comfort, and sometimes that's just good enough, right?
A healthy person wants 100 things. A sick person wants one thing.
Oh, right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, you are awesome. How do people find you?
I want people to find me socially, on social media, on Instagram at Dr. Vonda Wright, Dr. Vonda Wright. I have a webpage that explains everything. It's Dr. Vonda Wright. They're welcome to email me, actually. I have a public email, Vonda at Vonda Wright, because I can't do what I do without connecting with people. So, and then people come from all over the country to come to Lake Nona. We are 10 minutes from the airport, and if you want this kind of circumferential, whole person approach to peak performance and optimum health, well, I'm here.
Yeah, she is amazing. I'm not kidding. She is amazing. So get in touch with her. There's not many doctors that give out their email. I'm the only crazy person that does that now. I know there's two of us.
Yeah, right.
You're awesome.
Right.
Thanks, Doc.
Bye.
We started Trifecta with a very singular mission: to get America into shape. We were really interested in launching a business that was able to actually directly help people. That happened to be us helping with the chronic disease crisis that's caused by nutrition. We make it with organic ingredients, macro balanced meals, fully biodegradable packaging.
Trifecta's here. Oh yeah!
We have an amazing company mission to help get America back into shape.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up Podcast.